You know, I did feel like I was gonna keep playing the DLC in this video, but I didn't want to go through Castle Ensis and fight Renala for a video, so I'm here on my Dex character, and I think I'm actually gonna just go ahead and make this character my sleep character. And I believe one of the only sleep weapons in the vanilla game that you can get is the Saint Trina's sword, which is in Caelid somewhere. So I think I need 14 intelligence to use it. So I'm gonna go ahead and go get that. Kind of wanted to talk about the DLC specifically and just go over a few things that I kind of wish were in the DLC, whether that's like lore things or gameplay things. And this is not gonna be like an organized list or anything. This is just gonna be me rambling off the top of my head. I hate everything, but yeah, overall, that the Shadow of the Erd Tree is like, there's so much shit in that DLC that complaining about stuff that wasn't in it feels kind of like entitled. But you know, I guess in that regard, I'm more so talking about like lore stuff instead of gameplay things. But one gameplay thing that I kind of wish they added more of was just more sleep stuff. There's what, 2 new sleep weapons in the DLC. There's the Velvet Sleep Sword, which is kind of fucked up if you think about it. One of the new sleep weapons that they added is just a like stronger version of the Saint Trina sword. It's even a straight sword as well. It has the same Ash of War, so that's kind of lame in like retrospect. But the other weapon is a sleep fist needle weapon that Tolier drops, which the weapon itself is pretty cool, but you can only get it if you either kill Tolier or you complete his quest line. Look at my character's face was in the shot there. So weird. I think that troll in like the network test dropped like a lightning bolt or whatever it's called. But yeah, the cool sleep weapons, one, they only added 2 of them, and one of them is just a straight sword with a already existing Ash of War, and the other one you can only get if you kill an NPC or complete their lengthy quest line, which lasts until the end of the DLC. Also, am I the only one who also is surprised that there wasn't like a sleep boss in the DLC, especially considering the fact that Saint Trina is literally in the DLC? It's very weird. I get that the idea that like death and sleep are becoming like synonymous with one another, and you know, if you look into it, in Elden Ring, sleep and death are like very similar, like thematically. So the putrescent knight having like ghost flame attacks, you know, in that sense makes sense. But yeah, it's weird that the boss guarding Saint Trina has no sleep capabilities whatsoever. But man, that OST bangs. It's so good. And this next thing that I want to talk about is it's weird because there is stuff in the DLC about it, but it's not, I don't think it was like done in the specific way that myself and a lot of people would have wanted. So a bunch of people, myself included, were expecting a lot more Godwyn stuff to be in the DLC and for him to be more central as a character, considering, you know, Mikola and his whole deal with like the eclipse and trying to resurrect him. Hello, Bach. And what we end up getting in the DLC is that Godwyn's cadavers are showing up in the Land of Shadow, because that's where what is it, where all death ultimately drifts or something is the line. And I don't have torch, so it's very dark in here. So Godwyn's Death Knights are in the Land of Shadow, looking for his cadavers, and that's about all the lore literally that we get for, you know, Godwyn and the Prince of Death and all that. And on one hand, that lore, what little bit of it that we get about Godwyn is kind of lackluster and disappointing. I will say, I am surprised that Godwyn, you know, and the death-related bosses are unique at all, and they're pretty cool, actually. So while the lore surrounding his inclusion in the DLC is kind of lackluster, at least the bosses that are associated with him are pretty cool. And the armor set is pretty sick, too. And the weapons. I think this is the first time literally ever since starting the game that I've ever died to these bosses. It's very odd. I was not prepared. But yeah, Godwyn's inclusion and his overall like irrelevance in the DLC is very disappointing, especially with all the stuff in the base game that was seemingly hinting towards him being a bigger deal to Mikola and everything. And it's crazy how you go from this in the base game to Swordmaster On's like flipping around and being a crazy person with a lightsaber katana. Or Baka, come see you in a second. I gotta go find this dragon church, which is on the other side of this demi-human cave for some reason. And as speaking of Godwyn, You know, being associated with Mikola, and Mikola being like the center focus of the DLC, you know, alongside Marika, I guess. I was kind of hoping that Godwyn would be a boss in the DLC, or, you know, more present than basically not at all. And, you know, getting to the end of the DLC and beating it, I feel like there was a version of the story or of the events of the DLC where instead of Radahn being the final boss, it was Godwyn. Although I guess in that specific case, it was Godwyn's soul was killed, but his body was left to be alive, quote unquote. And that's why Death acts so weird in relation to his body and everything. So it's not like there's a soul for Mikola to put in anybody's body or anything like that. Oh yeah, look at the OBS just die like crazy. That was insane. You know, a lot of people have gripes with Radahn being the final boss from like a story perspective, and I think for the most part, it's, you know, it's fine. They explain it well enough in the DLC, you know, with like Ansbach's dialogue in the specimen storehouse and everything, and Freya talking about how they're gonna, I think she mentions that they're resurrecting Radahn. She mentioned something about Radahn. I don't remember specifically what she says, but one thing that caught me off guard in terms of, you know, Mikola choosing Radahn is the whole bit. I think it's in the remembrance for the final boss, where it basically talks about how in their youth Mikola saw Radahn as like courageous and kind and whatever, which, I mean, I guess Radahn has like a thing for animals, and he's, you know, he doesn't seem to be that bad of a guy, although he is like a advocate for like eternal war and everything. So really, in regards to that, I'm not really sure, but besides that, you know, he seems to be a pretty like upstanding guy. You know, he halted the stars for a multitude of reasons, but one prevalent theory is that he does it to make sure that the stars don't fall onto what is it, Celia, the town where he learned about sorcery and whatever. But yeah, I don't know if it's because of like, yeah, and I guess he also has like a soft spot for animals, like his horse, and I think there's like cut content where he also has like a cat or some weird shit like that, which is like strangely wholesome. But yeah, it's another one of those situations like with the Dark Souls 3 DLC where people thought like Velka and Guinevere were gonna show up in it and they never did, or like we were gonna go to Londor and we never did. It's one of those weird cases where expectations for potential futures were being teased in the base game, and then in the DLC they're kind of followed up, but not really. Hold on, wait, this is super weird. I don't know if you've noticed, but the game has been stuttering a little bit, and also the face cam is still going, so that's interesting, actually. But the game has froze. However, the audio, which is now stopped, so all right, well, I can no longer control the game. It was frozen, and I could actually like hear myself walking around on torrent a little bit, but I think the idle animation for just sitting on torrent is playing. I can hear like horns, like hooves hitting the ground. That's so weird. Oh, I just opened my menu. Oh, now there it goes. Okay. Oh my god. Okay, so yeah, before I started recording this video, you know, I was getting ready to record. I had OBS open, and the game did crash. So I have no idea what's going on. And that's kind of concerning because the crash that happened before this was only like 30 minutes ago. So I'm not sure if streaming would be a good idea. I mean, I want to do it anyways, but I'm not sure if it would be like the game constantly crashing in like 30-minute intervals. That'd be really annoying. Yeah, I want to level up one more time and then go get that stupid sword. Although I think I need a stone sword key to get that. But yeah, one other thing that this is like not really a complaint, but just kind of like a nitpick. Oh, did I kill this boss already? Oh, I did. You know, they added, what was it, like 8 new weapon types into the DLC? And I remember them saying that, you know, there were over 100 new weapons in the DLC, and I think that's including new weapon types plus old weapon types as well. I want to see, can I get to this cave without triggering ag heal? That'd be great. But yeah, I can't remember how many weapons there are per new weapon type in the DLC. I know are there only 2 beast claw weapons? There might only be 2. There's 3 light great swords. I think there's 3 great katanas as well, and then perfumes, surprisingly there's a lot of them because of the different elemental versions, although surprisingly enough there's not a sleep one. Like there's even a madness perfume, even though those are already a fire perfume. It's very weird. I feel like that would have been a cool addition to the sleep pool of weapons, considering how small that group of weapons already is. But yeah, there's only 2 dueling shields. And I believe there's only 2 martial arts weapons. There's the first one that Dane gives you, and then there's Dane's weapon, which you get right at the end of the DLC, so that's kind of a bummer. I don't think I'm forgetting any other new weapon types, but yeah, I kind of wish there were a few more to fill some of the less prevalent weapon types in terms of variety. God, why is the club like unironically good? God, this cave is very, I forgot what the area in Demon Souls is even called, but that one area, you know which one I'm talking about. But yeah, some other like lore things that I kind of wish they touched on at all. This is something that I don't see people mention all that much, but we never find out what the deal with Mikola and Melania's shadows are. Going by how Ronnie is treated as an Empyrean, it seems to be that every Empyrean is given a shadow by the fingers, and Melania kind of acts as Mikola's shadow, but I wonder if that was like, if she's literally like his appointed shadow by the fingers, or whether like they originally had shadows but got rid of them somehow, especially with Mikola and Melania to that extent being like anti Golden Order. Yeah, it would have been cool to see one of or both of their shadows be bosses in the DLC. If there's like a lore thing that could make that happen, I'm not sure, but just like, you know, this is like headcanon fan fiction stuff. Ow. Die. Okay, I think I have barely enough souls to level up. Does Patches sell Storm Sword keys? He might. Also, with Marika being a focus in the DLC, her having a shadow with Malekith, I kind of wish that whole deal with shadows was explored more in the DLC, but it's not, so that kind of sucks. Apparently, there's one in these ruins? I guess we'll go see. And one of the big lore things that I wish they talked about, which they kind of did, maybe not. It's very hard to tell because it's never elaborated on, but the Glowmite Queen and whatever Marika is pulling those threads out of in the DLC trailer, you know, that's never elaborated on at all. Apparently there's a Stone Sword key here somewhere, but I don't know where it is. Is it this? No, it's that. You know, it's like the what I mentioned earlier, how in Dark Souls people like really wanted to see anything to do with Velka and have her be more prevalent in the story, and it seems that Miyazaki has done it again, and it's literally like also the same type of character as well, like this mysterious like occult lady that is like associated with darker colors and like purple specifically, and like sin and stuff like that. You know, people theorize that the thing Marika is pulling the golden threads out of in the story trailer might be the Glowmite Queen. Looks a lot like Godskin, well, skin, but or people may theorize that it might also be like a snake. It's very obviously, it's very intentionally ambiguous what is going on in that trailer, which is a shame because that's like one of the few things that like I really wanted to be elaborated. The most fucked up part about that is that if you never watch any of the trailers, you know, all these like important story cutscenes, they're literally story trailers. That entire aspect of the lore and discussion is like completely hidden from you. Like the imagery of Marika pulling out golden threads from a corpse and holding it in the gate of divinity in the shape of a rune arc, or Haroon as well. Like that entire sequence of events is just lost on someone who never watched those trailers. It's so weird that those aren't in-game. I forget how far Caelid is, or how big Limgrave is, I guess you'd say. I was kind of expecting to just walk my ass over there nonchalantly. I should also probably just make sure that the sword is at where I think it is, even though I'm pretty sure I remember where it's at. We'll have to see. I'm astonished that there's nothing Glowmite Queen or Godskin related in the entire DLC, like period. Like it didn't have to be the Glowmite Queen just straight up, but just like literally there's nothing in the DLC, which is insane. I didn't mean to come here, but I guess I'll grab the physic while I'm at it and light this grace. Ah, yes, Sacred Blade, my beloved. But yeah, the last thing that I can remember that I kind of gripe with in terms of the DLC is something that I think this is probably the biggest actual complaint about the DLC. Yeah, nothing about the... Hello. I've literally never seen that. That was horrifying, and I hope I never have to see a troll do that ever again. But I think it's one of the actual biggest complaints about the DLC in terms of the story, and it's the fact that it basically has no connection to the base game at all whatsoever, which is really strange because like even past Souls DLCs have had recognition in the base game. You know, in Artorias of the Abyss, there's an alternate cutscene if you do the whole Sif thing in the DLC and then fight Sif afterwards. There's an entirely new cutscene. In DS2, there's literally an entire new ending and new dialogue with Vendrick and all that, and Aldia. In Bloodborne, there's dialogue with the doll that it's really subtle, and I don't know if there's any other references besides that, but in Sekiro never got DLC, which is like a crime. In DS3, in Ashes of Ariandel, there's multiple characters acknowledge if you are the Lord of Hollows. They do acknowledge that. Hello, goodbye. There it is. I've never actually used sleep. It seems pretty cool. Oh my god, he knocked the other bird over. Ow. Alright, the bird just killed the other bird. You love to see it. Okay. Alright, well, I got the sword. That's all that matters. And in the Ringed City, I think like multiple characters will reference things in the base game, like that one lady will reference Lorien and the Demon Prince and all that. And yeah, in Elden Ring is like an outlier in this situation because nobody in the base game acknowledges anything that goes on in the DLC. Not even like Gideon or Melina. God, I can't believe Melina literally says nothing. Not in regards to Mesmer or Marika or Mikola or anything. It's very weird. Hello. But yeah, off the top of my head, I think those are the biggest complaints or like nitpicks that I have about the DLC. Overall, I still think the DLC is amazing, especially for the price of entry of only $40. The amount of content and just game time you get out of it is supersedes any like story complaints or anything that I feel like I have. Although I do think that Radahn is not that great of a final boss like mechanically, but it's neither here or there. Maybe I'll change my mind once I fight him again. But yeah, with all that said and done, I'm gonna go ahead and end the video there. So if you did enjoy this video and want to help support the channel, then leaving a like and subscribing would be very much appreciated. My PC issues seem to be ever persistent still, so any kind of support that you can show would mean a lot. So, you know, sharing the video, liking it, everything like that, that'd be real neat. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end the video there. So later.